times on the border, but how do you break up with your friend? I know there's no use to confront her, but how do you say this is the end? I'm through being taking it for granted. I'm the one you call when nobody's home. Being with you means just disappointment. Our last escape, so I've been told. Don't bring that bomber to my door again, my friend. You know that you've been crying wolf too many times before this time. I know it, been there, I've done that. Those words are just sand in my hair. So talk if you like. The words will be words till you bring them to life. So talk. Welcome to the show. That was Talk, Talk, Talk by St. Michael featuring Anya Gold. This is Let's Catch Up with Mike. I'm your host, Mike Vatter. Normally I play more of that song, you know, but I am so excited to welcome a musical guest, my friend. I like to think of him as my friend anyway, Devin.
Thanks so much.
I want to play some of his music for you, so I don't want to spoil you. My cat is at the door, of course, wants out. So let me just let my cat out real quick. He's going to start meowing. Go. Okay, there you go. He'll start scratching at the door the second he doesn't like music playing loudly in the studio here. So
Okay.
He was quiet and sleeping until I started playing music. Now he's like, I'm out. So anyway, so Devin is I want to say old friend of mine, but I'm much older than you are. So
No, we've known each other now for five, 6 years.
Yeah. So I met you just for the sake of the audience. I met Devin about, I want to say about 6 years ago. You were doing Theater on a Mission. Is that that's the right name, right? Yeah, Theater on a Mission. And then at Players by the Sea, you were in Aida.
My goodness,
Yeah, you played Radames.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, okay, I heard this magical voice come out of this little young, I think you were 16, 17?
I was a lot younger. I'm 24, so I've been 18 or so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard this magical voice come out of you, and I said, I want that voice to sing at my wedding. But you moved to Tallahassee, and I was like, oh, how do you move away from me? I'm getting married. So
we made it work, though.
I bribed you. Your dad was like, you know, telling you, if you're going to be a musician, you better get paid for it. So I said, I will pay you.
We got to do, well, it was Marry Me by Train, wasn't it?
Yes. Good memory.
And it's lovely. It was lovely, like getting to do that for you. I loved that whole project, and it was a pleasure recording it. It was actually, I got to use a recording studio in FSU, actually, that a friend of mine worked in and had a project that they needed my help on. And I was in there and I was like, do you know what? I was messaging them and I was like, I would love if you could maybe help me as well. So a circle of reciprocity, I suppose, would be involved in that whole process. And I got to record it in one of the recording labs in FSU. And so we got to use really nice mics and record it all in really nice stuff. So it would have been much better than me recording just by myself. So it was, it's a lot of people helped to, you know, make that a lovely project for you and your husband. And
that is very cool. I am so glad you got to do that for us, and it was wonderful. But why we are here today is to talk about you, because you have a wonderful new single that is getting ready to drop in just a few days. And I have so many questions for you, but I need to ask you about this. First of all, I mean, from Jacksonville to Ireland, and your journey has been amazing. I mean, I followed you on social media since we first met, because your journey has just been wonderful, and you're so talented, and you're so amazing, and your voice, not just your voice, but I mean, you're a triple threat. You teach theater.
You're as well. You're amazing as well, Mike. Like, just thank you so much. Well, it's amazing to hear. Thank you.
But you,
But
I mean,
yeah,
you literally just came from hours and hours and hours this week of teaching theater and being in the studio. And I know you're what is the term over there? Knackered from just
yeah, they do say knackered. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, knackered. I am pretty tired, so
And you've picked
I
up this lovely Irish accent, which I just think is adorable because you had this North Florida twang when I when I last saw you
yeah,
in person.
it goes in and out. Like it depends on who I'm speaking to. It just I've been spending a lot of time with a lot of Irish people, believe it or not, and so it's kind of stuck now. But if I spend too much time speaking to American people, it kind of comes back. And then if I speak with the Irish people, it comes you know. So it's a weird thing. It's something that I don't know, anyone who I think has moved to another country will find, and especially if you have people in your family who have another accent, that you kind of sometimes you don't realize that dialogue switch happens, but it totally just takes you away. Like even now, I feel myself speaking more American, that twang creeping back in, speaking with you.
Yeah, I
But
hear
yeah,
it.
thank you. That's lovely to hear about. Yeah, the journey has been kind of crazy going
Yeah.
from Jacksonville to over here. It's been quite a saga the past few years.
Why Ireland? Why did you choose to head to Ireland to begin with?
Sure. Yeah. So my mother is from Dublin. Rathmines is where she grew up. And she moved to the States when she was about 18 and spent most of her life there. And when I was growing up, there was because I have an Irish family in the States, and there was a lot of Irish influence my whole life, and we went back and forth a few times. And when I finally went to college, she was like, "All right, you're going, I'm going too." And so she moved back to the the Irish Isle. She lives now in County Wicklow though, which is just south of Dublin. And so I was going through college, and I don't know, I was kind of having a hard time, and I just was trying to figure out a new way, kind of to go once I graduated, and just it just kind of became apparent that I need to move here. I had always actually wanted to move here. It was kind of like a pipe dream as a kid. I was like, it was kind of this fairy tale like land, because we'd been a few times when I was younger, and I remember like specific memories of being here and just this incredible feeling. Um, and so I resolved after college to come over, and it's been an incredible experience. It's been different than some of the the romanticized memories that I had as a kid at certain points, but in other ways it's been an amazing journey for me. There's been some really profound kind of, I guess, healing is something that has been going on for me. I had some crazy stuff happen with my family a few years ago, and that was really hard. And so moving over here, I've had a lot of time, especially with the lockdown, to deal with a lot of these things, and be with my family, which has been, it has its moments, but it's been great. So that's kind of it. Really, for me, moving back here was to be with my family, and then in being here with my family, it's kind of allowed me the space and the resources to kind of delve into a lot of stuff that I was dealing with, and I turned to music, like I kind of always have, to deal with a lot of stuff, especially with lockdown, not being able to do theater. I mean, even teaching theater now on Zoom, and teaching music a little bit on Zoom. And I just want to. I've just written some music, and that I think is really kind of powerful, and I think will hopefully resonate with some people, and I want to share it. And that's what this whole thing. That's why I'm so so appreciative of you having me on your show, which I've seen some of your episodes now, and you work so hard at it, and you interview really, really cool people and interesting people and incredible people. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that, but I'm honored to have you on because, like I said, I mean this song, it's beautiful, and we were listening. You and I were listening to it together, just a few minutes before we came on, and it really is beautiful. It's so lovely, and I it's funny because I mean I know you as this, not to demean you in any way, but I know you as this little kid. I met you in
yeah.
high school. You were just, I mean, you're a theater kid, a theater nerd like I was, like an
Completely
actor, singer, musician, like triple threat high school kid, but you've grown
trying to
into
be
this,
trying to be a triple threat.
yeah, you've
Yeah,
grown into this wonderful young man who is just worldly, and
thank
you have
you.
an album coming out, which is awesome. Um,
Crazy.
yeah, it is crazy, but it's crazy in a great way. So before we play it for everyone else, where can we find it? It's dropping on Friday, April 30th.
Yes, it's coming
Yeah.
up. 5 days almost
Yeah.
6. Yeah, so it's going to be on all major music streaming platforms, so Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play. It will be on YouTube pretty soon. We made a music video. I have a friend yes, who's
That's
a
like, what? Yeah.
yeah, he went to film school over here, and he's a cinematographer, and so we worked on a project, just the two of us, and well, my dog is also featured in the music
Of
video,
course.
and it's kind of just trying to make the best of what we could in lockdown, and so you know yeah, that'll be coming out. I think it's going to be a week after the release.
Okay.
So yeah, the music video will be out in a week after next Friday. So it's a lot of things happening, and then the EP will be in a few, I think, in a few weeks, maybe a month or two.
Okay. How
Still
many
working on
songs?
for that.
Oh,
It's going to be 5 songs.
okay.
So
Very cool.
yeah,
Very cool.
yes,
Now I know, and I don't want to bring up any like In Sync, Backstreet Boys, Beatles kind of like bands that have broken up kind of like stuff. But I know you
uh-huh.
you were part of an acoustic group in Tallahassee. Are any of those guys still part of your musical journey? Is that all gone to the wayside? It can be a simple
No,
yes or no. You don't have to delve into anything.
no, there really wasn't any significant beef between me and any people I've played music with before. In terms of the stuff that I've done in Tallahassee, I just really was messing around music with a few friends. I was in some other groups and stuff in college, and I was in an a cappella group for a year, which was really cool. Reverb. I learned a lot of great stuff from those guys, and I'm kind of just like doing this. And I was in a band in high school as well with the fantastic Riley Hillier. He's like one of my best friends, and he's so talented. And he actually um, is going to be on one of the songs on the EP. I've actually collaborated with him. He's
Awesome.
played bass and trumpet on his on one of the songs, and then actually his sibling Fox Hillier, who goes to Berkeley, they are going to be playing baritone saxophone on Straight Shooter as well.
Wow.
So kind of reconnecting with some roots on those, and then even I've got friends in Dublin playing on some songs too. So it's kind of a cool international collaboration. We've just been sending stuff through the internet back and forth to each other. So it's just been a beautiful process for me, and it's actually helped a lot of my relationships grow now through lockdown. It's incredible how music, really does bring people together, and I think like that for me has just been so great.
Isn't it
And
amazing though? I mean, even just a few years ago, just to have this conversation that we're having would have taken satellite trucks and hundreds of miles of cable. And now we're like, hook up your iPhone to
Zoom, like,
to Zoom, and I'll just plug in a mic to my computer, and
it's
we'll
crazy.
be connected in 5 minutes.
And
Not
that,
even
we've had
5
to
seconds.
like, it's so crazy. We've had to really adapt. It's just humanity is great at adaptation. That's one of our
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
It's really insane. I was thinking about that the other day, teaching how the adaptation of humankind is so insane. How we have a whole pandemic and people can't see each other physically, but
Right.
the whole time we've been seeing people
Yeah.
every day through our phones and our screens and everything.
Right.
And of course, it is very different. But I mean, that's an amazing feat, like
Yeah.
of I don't know, just adaptation.
10 years ago, if you had moved to Ireland and
Mm-hmm.
I, I'd gotten married and stayed in Jacksonville, we wouldn't be seeing each other. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a
no,
cost, you know?
no interview would have happened at all. It would have
There's a
been
cost to that, and now because
yeah.
of technology, so I'm gonna ask you a few questions that I'm sure people wanna know. I wanna know, I don't care
Mhm.
if other people wanna know. Um, and then we'll play a bit of the single, Ireland song,
Sure.
for your current and soon to be future fans. Um, when
Hopefully.
you write a song, what do you write first? Do you write the chord progression, the vocal melody, the lyrics? How does that I mean, I know everyone has their own process, but how does that work for you?
Yeah. That's a kind of a tricky question because sometimes it is the chicken or the egg, you know. But
Right.
what I've found is that just through writing more, I've found that oftentimes it'll most of these songs really come from like terrible poetry. A lot of these songs come from really crap poems um, that um, I'll really resonate with sometimes. That I'll write something that will come to mind and I'll just jot it down most of the times in my notes on my phone, and then I will come back to it usually later. The idea will kind of be bouncing around in my head and it'll get a bit more refined through usually random moments. The shower is a big place
Yeah.
for me to get ideas, which is difficult than typing the notes in um, with the water and everything. But finding those moments are really exciting, and then that will either develop into a musical idea. But usually, what I've found easiest is just I'll sit down and I'll just play something that I feel like resonates with the words. So I don't try and be like, I'm going to write a song now. I'll be kind of inspired by this very rough or maybe a more refined draft of a piece of poetry, I guess. And
Okay.
and then that will sometimes it'll happen in I wrote one song in like 15 minutes, but that doesn't ever happen. And most times it'll be a really messy voice memo on my phone. And the song will either like kind of like the words will marry with a musical idea
Okay.
pretty easily, or sometimes I'll kind of like it'll just happen like that. But it's kind of like a multi-step process. I feel like the best ones that I've written have come from a very organic place, and they come from these different ideas, and sometimes I'll get a musical idea or a melody and I'll be like, that could go with this song idea that I've had. But I mean, a lot of it really is kind of in it. A lot of it lives up in my head, and then I'll be able to get it down. Thank God for my cell phone, honestly, because my notes section and my voice memos, if anyone, if it were anything were to happen to them, my iCloud, I'm so dependent on it. I don't know how writers in like the 1700s did it,
Right.
because
When
they,
they yelled at Siri or somebody, it was
yeah,
actually a person, right?
they thought they were like they would put them in a sanatorium, like
Right.
yeah, yeah, and so I guess that would be the process. Is kind of it's like a just kind of taking different ideas, so a musical idea or a poem, and trying to bring them together. Or sometimes it all happens at once. It really isn't a one type of avenue thing, but like most of the time, I guess that is what I would say is trying to sit down and just letting myself organically play and letting that become something else.
Okay.
Which is
I get
really
that.
more fun, I feel
Yeah.
like, for me than trying to be like, I'm gonna write a song.
Well, then it feels kind of like an assignment. If you give yourself
Exactly.
yeah, and you don't
Yeah.
that's not creative, that's not fun, like you
It
said.
doesn't work. It doesn't work like that.
Right. So
Mhm.
what's more important to you than, in the creative process? Is it the style or the skill, or does it kind of depend on your headspace?
Um, what do you mean? What do you
Well,
mean by
so
that? Like,
so
sorry.
no, it's okay. It may be a sloppy question.
No, no,
Um,
no, no. It's a
so
great question. Just when you mean style and skill, like, do you mean like developing my own personal style
yeah,
or like the headspace? Like how um I've actually found it really tough to develop my own style as a
yeah.
musician.
Yeah. So if you're,
Um,
would you say
mm,
like, yeah, is it like my skill as a musician is more important than developing my style as a musician? I guess is what I'm asking. You know, like some people
mhm,
have like the talent down, they've nailed it, but some people
mhm,
have a style of playing or performing, or that it's like they're not a great musician, but they can really sell a song. They're really good at
mm,
performing. You know what
mm,
I mean?
yeah.
Which is one more important to you than the other, or is it kind of all a package? Or
I think a lot of different people will give you different opinions on that.
right? Yeah,
And I think for me, I don't know. I guess I don't think skill really matters if your idea if your head's in the right place in terms of like because you got all kinds of music that people listen to now that comes from completely different layers
hmm
of like complexity. um I would say it takes a I mean it takes a certain degree where one can make up for the other. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, but like say someone who has like a very distinct style, like that people want to come back and listen to, say like Mac DeMarco or someone like that who I listen to. Um, he's got a very specific style, and a lot of his songs they do take a lot of skill to write, but some of them he can write a very basic chord structure and guitar part, and he's got this style that people come back to listen to because of how it sounds and his
yeah.
his signature. But for me, man, I'm pretty new still, and I think developing a style like that takes years and is really hard because it's so personal.
Right.
And I think for me, developing a style is one of the hardest things for me right now. And maybe it comes from this musical theater background, that I feel like I have a lot of variations and stuff.
Well, do you
Uh,
develop a style or do you create a style?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think they come together, and I think for me right now, I'm just as a single creative entity kind of, and I've worked with other people on certain parts and stuff, but for the most part, like these songs, they're very different. And they do sound like they come from the same musician, which is something I wanted. But I think just because this is my first project, I wasn't so worried as much in creating a style or a sound, which I think a lot of new artists really try and do, and a lot of the music industry pushes for people to do, which is something I've had some anxiety about. But for me, this project was kind of exploring different facets of myself as a person through music, and um, I came out with some really cool pieces that I'm super proud of, and some other stuff that didn't make it onto this project. It was originally supposed to be 7, but I ended up cutting it down to 5. And I'm really happy with the stuff I'm putting on it. But there are other things that I wish I could have, you know, kept on there, but just didn't get to. And so I think I don't know. I guess it's just like it's something that takes a lot of time, and that right now I am trying to let myself just like ease into,
Yeah.
because it's just, developing your own style, I think, takes work and time, and I've been playing music for years and stuff, but in terms of who I am as a musician is very much still developing.
Who influenced you growing up as far as musicians? Like who was played in your household? What kind of music?
Yeah. um yeah, there's a lot of music that was played for me that I think, like, I always say with questions like this, there's the music that I heard, and then there's music that I listened to.
Right. Yes,
You
that's
know?
true. That's very true.
Yeah. But I think for me, the music that was played for me that I listened to was probably um Kansas was a really big one. The
Okay.
Eagles, um, the Beatles, a lot of ABBA, and Earth, Wind, and Fire also.
It's funny
And
because I
Mhm.
I
What?
when I this is totally out of the blue. When I hear the Beatles, of course, I mean the Beatles have been around longer than I've been around, much longer than you've been around. But when I hear the Beatles, my brain works a little bit differently than a lot of people's, and my audience knows I have OCD and
I have OCD too.
I have a neurodiverse brain. I know we have that in common,
Me
and
too. I didn't. I
my
never.
my brain, I picture things as I hear them, and
Mm,
it's part of my kind of my just right OCD and my very vivid
mm,
mind, and I know that a lot of creatives have that in common. I know you and I do as well. But
mhm.
when I hear music, or when I hear a certain type of music or a certain specific song, I
Yeah.
picture things from my life as well as, and it's almost like simultaneous
Mhm.
memories or pop culture things or whatever. Not just like, oh, that song takes me back to my grandma's house, or that song takes me back to my first kiss, or whatever typical things that people imagine with music. But I also will say, okay, that song, my brain will say, that song is this person, that song is this thing, that song is, like, that song is purple, that song
Yeah.
is vanilla, that song is whatever. When I hear certain Beatles songs, that song is Devin, that song and it's true. And so the movie Yesterday, do you know the movie Yesterday by
Wow.
where the guy loses, the whole world goes black,
Memory,
and
right? And he remembers the
yeah,
Beatles song.
yes. He's the only one that knows the Beatles, and everyone else is like
Yeah.
completely, they don't remember any pop culture stuff. They don't remember the Beatles, don't remember Coke, they don't remember, and yeah, so that character so reminded me of you when I was watching the
That's
movie.
insane.
I was like, that's so weird. I watched the movie and I was like, this character reminds me of Devin, and I have no idea why, because it didn't take place in Ireland. There was nothing about the character that really looked like you. I mean, he was
Some guy lying to the world about having completely erased
yeah, he
musically.
right.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, there's nothing
hilarious.
about you personality wise. He was a sweet guy. He was very talented, but it was like
Mhm.
there was nothing about him that was innately you. But I was like,
Yeah.
when he sang Let It Be, it reminded me of the moment that you sang Brown Eyed Girl at the theater on a
Yeah.
mission. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's crazy. It was like, because he was
Yeah.
like nervous. And I don't know if you remember this, when you came running out of the side door, because you did do a quick costume change,
Yes.
you slipped running onto the stage.
Okay.
And a bunch of people in the audience were like, they gasped, they audibly gasped because they thought you were going to fall. And you
Yeah.
recovered very quickly, and you were like, I'm good. And you, like, that actor in you, that improv actor in you was like, I'm good,
Yeah.
I'm fine. And you went right into
Mhm.
Brown Eyed Girl. And that's one of
Mhm.
my favorite songs. And I think that
Yeah, me
moment
too. I love it. Yeah.
solidified in my brain that you can, like, kind of roll with the punches. Like, and
Mhm.
that I think has served you well in life and served you well in
Yeah.
your pursuit of, hey, I'm gonna take off to Tallahassee and then I'm gonna take off to Ireland and I'm gonna I'm
Yeah.
gonna do what I need to do to make my musical career what it's gonna be. And I'm
Mhm.
not gonna, do what the studios want me to do is I'm gonna have this, canned sound and I'm gonna write the music I want to write. And I think that when I hear the Beatles, when I hear, I wouldn't have thought of Kansas. They're not big in my musical repertoire, but
Mhm.
some of the Eagles, yeah, absolutely. When I hear bands like that, I think of you, and I think of other people in my life as well. But yeah, so that's awesome that you mentioned
That's
those, and those are
that's
bands that
incredible. Those
spark.
are incredible things to hear. Thank you for saying that. I
It's
really
true.
appreciate
I don't bullshit people on my show.
it. Thank you. Yeah, well, that's a good rule. I definitely think it's uh I don't know. Um that's really nice to hear because I don't know. I think for a long time I felt like I was kind of this like lost soul drifter thing because I in between that I also moved to North Carolina and I became like this rafting guide.
Yeah, I
And
remember that.
yeah, and so
There's a
I've
picture
done
of you
all
on
the,
Facebook, and you've got the
yeah, with the
paddle.
raft and
Yes.
stuff, and it's like where the hell is he now?
Yeah.
Like, and but I think um for me, I it kind of comes down to a tenacity thing, and I had like what you said with OCD, right?
Yeah.
I had some kind of, and everyone has this, but I had some trauma happen in my life around that time when I was, I think, a sophomore in college, which would have been, Aida was after that, but I I was kind of on the run with a lot of things from a lot of feelings and that I didn't really get to deal with. And and I think a lot of me doing all that stuff and trying to roll with the punches was kind of a coping mechanism. And like I I think just is one thing I learned to do because like I think you might relate to this with the OCD. There's a lot of ascribing things
Hmm.
meaning, and so when I was a kid, I had I had some harder stuff just happen when I was a kid there, and the OCD was a manifestation of that for me, and it turned into because with a lot of people with these non um, neurotypical thinking conditions, that you and I are blessed with, um, we interpret things like a certain way different, and things we deal with things differently, and for me I had a lot of really weird tics as a kid that I seemed really strange to other kids. And I ended up having to go because my OCD was so bad. I would not, it was like all the stereotypical stuff. Like I wouldn't step on cracks or I'd touch doorknobs like 3 times. And before I went to bed, I even had to pee 3 times before I went to bed every night, which is wild. And other stuff. And my mother took me to a neurologist, thank God. And the doctor said, does he show any artistic interest? And my mom said he likes to pull out pots and pans and bang on them. And he said, you got to get him a drum set.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, what? And he was like, trust me. And so my mom thank God she paid for a drum set. Like, and like it really, for me, music became this like, and I think music for me has always been this through line in my life, through band, through chorus, through musical theater, through all these different things. And I didn't realize that until recently, that I think there's kind of been this thing where when I would play piano and drums and all these things, I wouldn't have those weird tics, like they would go away. And for me, I would make this like weird noise and like do these weird things like every few minutes, like every minute almost. I just be like, and I remember being in school and kids being like, what is this kid's deal? And like, and only when I started playing music did all that stuff go away.
Yeah.
and not go away, but it helped me
I know what you mean. Yeah.
work through it. And that's what the neurologist said, was that, for people who have things like this, a creative outlet. And a lot of really famous and successful people have OCD, and they've used their art as a way of coping. And I think for me, that's what this whole thing has been. Because lockdown for me, when I finished college and came over here, and lockdown started, and I lost my little coffee shop job here at this beachside town in Ireland. It was so nice, and then I lost it. And I was just stuck at home with my family, and it was like so hard because I had to deal with all this stuff that I hadn't
Yeah.
been dealing for years.
Yeah.
There was, just to be specific, there was a suicide in someone who was very close to me, and it affected me so profoundly that my depression became this huge thing in my life, that was really debilitating. And for a long time, I thought I didn't need to deal with it. And only this a year and a half ago, really, was when lockdown and being here in Ireland with my family kind of forced me to really look at everything. Because I'm really fortunate that I have had the resources that I have had to learn these arts and these skills, but I think for a long time I took them for granted, and I didn't realize how important they were. And I with writing this EP, it kind of been for me this thing where I have been able to cope and like take these big complex thoughts and feelings and get rid of some of those, really come to terms with things and kind of try and be an adult and do these things and realize how far I have come. And really, like, I mean, like, I love performing, but I think everyone has their things that they struggle with and demons that they deal with. Everyone does. And for me, just being creative has been such a thing. That's been good for me. And I joined an improv troupe in college, and for me, that was after I actually dropped out of school for a year, out of the musical theater program, and then came back and did a science degree and was playing music on my own, whatever. But I was in this improv group, and I remember just that act of being in the moment, for me, was so joyful and wonderful, being to just connect, to the moment. And I think the same thing with the whitewater rafting, and the same with rehearsals for everything, and playing music, that I think for so many people, we have such a hard time connecting to the moment and get stuck in our head and our feelings and our emotions and stuff. And whatever it is that you find helps you connect to that, I think is so important to do. And whether that's play music, or have a podcast, or have just go to your job every day and see your family, and kiss your kids on the head as they go to sleep at night, or whatever it is that. But I think that like living in the moment is so important, and for me, music really helps me do that. And yeah,
it's amazing that one of the great quotes I've heard, and she's not a great philosopher or anything, and I think that makes it even better. But talking about performing and how it helps people overcome. Andrea Martin, the comedian, she's best known for sketch comedy, but she's done Broadway for years. She was the grandma in the latest revival of Oklahoma, and she was in Pippin as the narrator.
Okay, I've listened to the new revival of Oklahoma, I think, once.
Okay. But in Pippin, she was the narrator, and she has this great scene where she's
was she was the original narrator in Pippin.
In the revival of Pippin, I think like
Interlude.
5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
And so she has this scene where she's in this like this hula hoop that hangs from the ceiling and from the from the rafters, but and she's she has to sit in this hoop and like swing, and she's terrified of heights, and she has to do that for like 2 full songs. And like
Yeah.
she's it's like a circus scene or something, and
What?
she's a carnival scene. That's what it is. And she's
Oh my God. Yeah.
and she's Martin Short, who's one of her best friends from her
I love
SCTV days.
short.
He has a talk show in Canada, and he or did at the time, and he interviewed her, and he said, "How are you doing this show? Several nights, 8 weeks of the shows, several performances, and you're terrified of heights." And she said, "My character's not afraid of heights."
That's that's a wild like mind, that other
Yeah,
word. That,
you could say it.
that's
Mind fuck.
crazy that
Yeah.
you could say that.
It's a total,
Okay, yeah.
it's a total mind
That,
fuck.
that's
It
a
is.
total mind fuck, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
you can
it absolutely is because but I think about that, and she said things like that about characters that she's played over the years before. She's like, "Oh, I'm playing a 90-year-old woman," and she's like, "But my character is 90. I'm not 90. And my character can do this thing, and I can't do this thing." And I'm like, "She's a comedian. How is she so?" We don't give credit like that to comedians to be that insightful of their characters.
Yeah.
He's a sketch comedian, so most of the time you play the character for 30, 40
Robin
seconds.
Williams or other
Oh yeah,
comedians the actors who are like some of the greatest actors of all time. Like,
absolutely.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so she does this, eight shows, or whatever it is, 8 shows a week for 16 weeks, and you think that's insane that she's like up on this, basically a metal hula hoop, which is this big around.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm afraid of heights, but my character's not, or I'm
That's such
afraid
a
of horses, but my character's not. And I'm like, what? How that what?
Yeah.
But she's right, and I think about that. People say, how do you get in front of, when I used to do radio, and I have to go in front of the stadium for NFL games, and people say, how do you make announcements in front of 75,000 people when you basically have OCD stage fright, OCD induced stage fright? Like, it's 75,000 people I don't know.
Yeah, it's like
I'm never gonna see them again.
It's like another part of who you are. It's the craziest thing. Like and I think, yeah, probably that's how people, are, firefighters or other, heroic professions where they do crazy stuff. And it's like certain, I don't know, maybe it's some kind of crazy human characteristic in that we can inhabit these roles that we create as people. And whether that's like on stage or as a person, like, yeah, we totally can inhabit these other states of mind that can allow us to do things that normally we couldn't. It's an interesting idea, the idea of the role giving her abilities that she normally wouldn't.
Right.
That's
it's
a superpower. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a superpower. Yeah. And yeah, it is. It is like a superpower.
Speaking of incredible superpowers, I want to play Ireland song.
That is a crazy segue, but okay.
Because you have an incredible superpower that I don't have.
I'm not gonna fully sign off on that.
Okay, well, your incredible superpower is being a beautiful songwriter, and I know we all have different talents, but that is yours. So I'm going to play just a minute or so of your beautiful song here for our audience.
Yeah. It's the teaser. We can't give it all away here.
No, not all of it. About a minute or so, and then we'll talk on the other side just a little bit more.
Cool.
Woke up this morning and I'm feeling a bit better. Open up the window and I put on my favorite sweater. So many afternoons with the shades drawn down. I don't feel guilty if I sleep the whole day long. Never seen a winter that was just so freezing cold. Nowhere else I'd rather be when I start to roll. No, this place is just so cold, gray, damp and dark. It started to warm the darkest place in my heart. I'm waiting for myself to move out of my own way. Waiting for myself to move out of my own way. Island might be icy, but my friends keep me warm in the cold. The kind of place I'd like to be when I start to grow.
Oh wow! So that was a rougher stop than I meant to give it, but
It's all right. Thanks so much.
no, but that was great. I love that. Let me come back to you here. That's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to stop that abruptly. I was trying to make sure I didn't go too far in. No, that was beautiful. So that the lyrics are so beautiful. I love that part. My friends, well, I don't want to, because I've heard more
No,
of it
yeah, no,
than I want to give
friends,
away.
Ireland's
But
icy, but my friends keep me warm in the
yeah,
cold.
I love that part. That is so beautiful. The whole
Thank you.
song is great. I can't wait to have my own copy of it, and I know our audience is going to feel the same way. Um, the whole EP, or the single, will be out on the 30th.
Mhm.
It's this Friday, and it'll be available on all the platforms you said. And then the EP will be out in a few weeks. What's the cost? How can your fans support you? Where can they donate?
Yeah, so it is on those streaming platforms. It is free if you pay the subscription. But we're gonna, I think we're gonna try and do a soft release of it on Wednesday,
Okay.
where we're gonna put it up on Bandcamp. So if you want to download it, and have it your own copy on your computer, we'll do that on Bandcamp. But for the meantime, if you can just stream it and give it a listen and check it out at the video on YouTube a week after, that would be the best thing. And I'm still a new singer songwriter, so getting all of the pieces in place, of other monetization and stuff are on the way. So honestly, just check it out and give it, and check out my stuff coming out. That's really it.
Well,
Just love to have
the
people on
pre-save
board.
link is on my show's Facebook, and
Fantastic. Yeah, it's on my
your
Instagram as well and my Facebook, and they should
your
be
link tree is going to be on this episode. So
fantastic.
if people can find all of those things you just mentioned
Yeah.
on this episode on the show's Facebook page, and then I will also share it on my YouTube, so people can find your link tree, so they can find your Instagram and all of that stuff, and your music page. And then, is there a donate button where people can donate so that you can keep making great music?
Yeah, there is actually on my link tree. There's a donation there. There's a GoFundMe. If people want to donate, that would be great. It's to cover the cost of mixing and recording. So
Good.
the recording process is done now, but mixing certainly is not. For the rest of the EP, I'm still mixing songs, and that's pretty pricey. So yeah, if people want to donate, that would be amazing. Yeah, that's that's pretty much the best way. And just check out the song. It's great. I just want to share that sentiment of the chorus is waiting for myself to move out of my own way. And the song for me is about, slowing down and being able to kind of smell the roses is a great term. and sometimes you're forced to take time. I think we all were forced to take time with this. And I even recently I went to the hospital to I had my appendix almost burst, and I had to go there, and I did some more songwriting and there, and sometimes these moments where we feel really out of place, we can find ourselves more than we ever thought, and the cycles that we get caught in, we can start to change things. And yeah, it's just, I think it's a great song for all of us coming out of this lockdown and moving into what will be a very new but hopefully beautiful time for us.
Well, you asked the universe to line things up for you, as you said in our pre-show prep, and
Yes.
you did not give the universe a timeline, and so the universe said,
Yes.
"Okay, well, here it is," and
Yeah.
I guess your appendix was in that timeline's way.
Yeah, I don't need it anymore. Cutting
yeah.
all the toxic threads and organs out of my life.
Yes, yeah. You don't need this one. Get rid of this one.
Yeah,
So,
we don't need it. We
yeah.
do not need that. So yeah, that's the deal, pretty much.
Well,
Yeah.
Devin, I am so proud of you, and I'm so pleased with this song. It's beautiful. I cannot say that enough.
And I appreciate that so much. Knowing you have heard me from very humble beginnings, and you have supported me, and I just want to say, having me on this show has been a joy, and also it's just amazing to be able to reconnect to more people from home, and just reconnect with my community there, and like, just this is so cool for me. It's really full circle, like it's surreal in a way. Like,
speaking of being forced to take time, I mean, this was supposed to be 20, 30 minutes, and it's been way over, so I so appreciate that. It's my fault. I so appreciate you going over time with me, because
no problem.
But that's, what, this is now, this is going to be a recording that you can use on whatever format you want. You can promote the hell out of this album in the single.
Absolutely.
Edit this down to 5 minutes if you want to.
No.
But I'm gonna have it up on my pages at full length. So share the link as much as you want to, and get some publicity out of it for you.
110%.
Yeah, and I'm gonna share it so people can donate and get you some money to keep making beautiful music. And so
that'd be phenomenal. And I appreciate your kind words so much as well. Like,
it's all true.
It's just we our own dialogue can be so different from what other people see. So I really appreciate that. So thank you, Mike.
I have to ask you about your Super Grandpa shirt.
Yeah, I I just love this jumper sweatshirt. It's just kind of a joke.
You're not old enough to be one, so
I'm not. I'm not a grandpa. I'm not children. I think it's just kind of a tribute to the person that I want to be, the super grandpa. That's a vibe.
Will be one day.
Maybe, hopefully. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think, and I just had my grandfather pass. He was a very special person to me. So I think every time I wear it, it's just like, I want to be a great guy like he was. So yeah,
that's sweet. That's very sweet. Well, I love that. I love anything that's like a tribute. I wore my my uncle's favorite. I'm not a sports fan. I know nothing about sports, as you probably know.
I am the same.
Yeah,
that's okay.
But I wore my t-shirt of my uncle's favorite team under my suit to be a pallbearer to his funeral. So I totally get that.
Amazing.
You honor them, right? You honor them in the way that you know how. So I love that you wear that in his honor. So, well, I'm so proud of you, and I love this song. I can't wait for the whole EP, but I will be, first in line to grab the link. So
I'm glad it's not the opposite. Like, man, that kid did that song at my wedding pretty well, but Jesus, this new music sucks. I'm not.
Well, there's 4 other tracks I haven't heard yet, so we'll see. Don't jinx yourself.
So hopefully the next interview won't be like, well, you didn't deliver, you know.
Yeah,
So
we'll see if there is a next
so, yeah.
interview. No.
Yeah. So
No, I want to have you on again regardless, and
would love to.
I have another podcast. It's the OCD. Jacksonville has a podcast called OCD Sharing Our Stories. So if you want to come on there and talk about something that's not music or how music has helped you with OCD, I'd love to have you on there. But we can talk about
That's
that
right
offline.
up my alley. I read a phenomenal book about OCD actually this year that changed my life, called The Man Who Couldn't Stop, by David Adams.
Oh yeah, I've read that. It's a great book.
Phenomenal book.
It is.
Changed my life.
Oh my gosh.
Changed my life the way I saw myself. That's amazing. Yeah. We have so much more to talk about.
I know. Okay, well that's another episode for another show, literally.
Yeah, so. I guess there you go. But yeah,
okay.
I probably should wrap this. But
yes.
But thank you so much.
I can't turn my other hand the other way. So this is what we're talking about now, and this is the link everyone needs.
Oh my gosh, your painted nails! I just saw. That's probably weird. I painted toenails.
I just do. That's awesome. I just do my left hand.
That's probably weird. I took my side off. But yeah, that's so, great.
May I ask why? I do just my left hand, and I started doing it for a kid on TikTok who was getting bullied, and I just decided it was a cool thing to keep doing.
I love that. I got a pedicure. And they
for fun.
They were like, "Do you want us to paint them?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" Also, when you're a raft guide, you paint your toenails because your toenails will get chipped off by all the rocks. so I remember seeing all the raft guides in their chacos and with their toenails painted, and I saw the toenail paint, and I was like, "Yeah, no big deal, whatever. Let's go ahead." And I just threw it on there. I love it. Maybe I'll do mine. So it's preventive in case there's any rocks. So I need to just be wary.
Oh my gosh.
It's hilarious.
Right. I miss you.
I miss you too. That's so great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you being on. I'm going to let you go. You need a nap, and I need more coffee.
Yeah, had a crazy week. So thank you.
All right. Well, we will catch up again soon. I promise. It will not be another 5 years before we see each other face to face. It will not be a year before we talk. So go get a nap. Thank you so much. I will share all the links, and you will get all the monies, and you will make all the music.
That sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Mwah, be good. And give your mom my love. I haven't talked to her in probably 6 years. But
she's been over here for a while now. But
I do see her on Facebook sometimes. So, but
I'm sure she'll be sharing this, and so you will be hearing from her.
Okay. Well, tell her I said hi.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I'll talk to you later. Thank you again. And
thank you.
Yeah, I will definitely share everything, and this is going to be a great album. I'm sure it will be.
Yeah. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Yes. Take a nap.
Will do.
Bye.
Bye.